This is what Monday Night Raw looked like in the 2000s. A rowdy crowd screaming their lungs out, a theme song that got your blood pumping, fan signs covering the arena, explosive pyro, and a product that genuinely felt rebellious and exciting. A phenomenon bigger than the NBA, the NFL, and MLB at one point in history. Fast forward to today, and Raw on Netflix barely resembles that show. It feels watered down, sanitized, corporate, and it feels like the show's confused about its own identity. So what made Raw in the 2000s so wildly different? What were the red-hot storylines, controversial moments, and brutal matches that had everyone talking? How does today's Raw stack up against the Raw we all fell in love with? Let's take a trip down memory lane and see what made Raw truly must-see TV. If you tune into Monday Night Raw today, the biggest storyline revolves around Seth Rollins and CM Punk. Rollins has been a thorn in Punk's side ever since his return to WWE. He stole the world title from Punk at SummerSlam by cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase, and Punk is hungry for revenge. Apart from this, you have stars like Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, Gunther, and others who seem to get randomly pushed into storylines without any clear direction or character progression. The mid-card feuds have no story. Challengers seem to be decided at random. And it feels like Triple H is booking the show on the fly.
Lately, he just hasn't been very oozy.
Even the main event feuds have no clear direction. It just seems to be a random combination of Rollins, Punk, Jey Uso, Braun Breaker, and some other names in the main event, which ends with a big brawl and Rollins' faction standing tall. Even back in 2023, this was the same pattern under Triple H's booking with the Judgment Day. Stories don't flow week to week, and they don't make you want to tune in to see what happens next, because even if you miss the show, you know damn well that you won't miss anything at all. Compare that to when Stone Cold was feuding with Vince. Even though the premise of the feud was basic, every week you had something insane, something different happening that would push the story forward. One week you had Austin destroying Vince's car, the next week you had Vince sending his henchmen after Austin, the next week Austin was spraying Vince and his henchmen with a beer truck, and the week after that, Austin was attacking Vince in a hospital. We don't even have to go that far back in time. Let's take the Cena vs. Edge feud from 2006. It was a generic good guy versus bad guy story, but even then, one week you had Edge slapping Cena's father. Then the next week, you had Cena tossing Edge in the Long Island Sound. The next week, you had Cena attacking Edge and Lita in a hotel. And the week after that, you had Edge and Lita making love on global TV. Though it was wild, though it was over the top, it made for must-see TV. The stories progressed week after week and got you hyped for the pay-per-views where the stories would culminate. Today, Raw plays it too safe. The stories don't have that dangerous feel. They feel too watered down, too morally correct. Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch fighting every week to see who's the better women's wrestler barely gets anyone excited to turn on the TV. Rhea Ripley getting 100 rematches for the title while having zero character progression does nothing to make fans tune in. Gunther being booked like an unstoppable force only to tap out to Jey Uso at WrestleMania with almost negligible buildup does nothing to get fans invested. Back in the day, WWE knew how to use Raw to build up the stars of tomorrow in the right way. In fact, let's take Triple H's own story from 2005. Let's talk about Triple H versus Batista. Back in 2003, Batista was just another guy looking for his big break. That's when Triple H saw something in him. He brought Batista into Evolution alongside Ric Flair and Randy Orton. Evolution was supposed to be wrestling perfection. Past, present, and future all rolled into one stable. Flair was the legend. Triple H was the present king. Orton and Batista were the future stars. But here's the thing about Triple H. He's always been about control. He wanted to be the leader forever. So while he helped build up Batista, he also made sure to keep him in line. The breaking point came at the 2005 Royal Rumble. Batista won the whole thing. He earned his shot at the world title. But instead of celebrating with him, Triple H immediately started pushing him towards SmackDown's world title instead of his own. That's when it clicked for Batista. Triple H wasn't his mentor. He was using him. Over the following weeks on Raw, tensions boiled over. Triple H kept trying to convince Batista to go after SmackDown's title, but Batista saw right through it. He knew Triple H was scared. Then came the moment that changed everything. Batista was supposed to go after JBL's WWE title. But instead, he gave Triple H the thumbs down and gave him a brutal powerbomb through the table. The crowd exploded. Evolution was dead. At WrestleMania 21, Batista finally got his hands on Triple H one-on-one for the world title. The student versus the teacher, the muscle versus the mastermind. Batista destroyed his former mentor, he won his first world championship, and just like that, a star was born. The whole thing felt organic. It was a slow burn. It built over months. You genuinely wanted to see Batista break free from Evolution's shackles and enter the main event scene. This wasn't just about a title. It was personal. It was about a man breaking free from someone who held him down for years. You can barely find any such stories on Raw today. Everything is about creating viral social media moments and short-term excitement instead of long-term storytelling. That's what made 2005 Raw special. Stories that felt real, characters you could connect with, drama that built over months and paid off in huge moments. Another major problem with Raw in 2025 is the lack of personal storylines that make you feel genuinely invested in what happened to these people. Even back in 2009, we had the whole Randy Orton versus McMahon family saga. On one hand, you had the Viper. Orton had completely lost his mind in his quest for revenge against the McMahons and was destroying everyone from Vince to Stephanie. Every week, he was crossing a new limit and you couldn't help but tune in to watch what happened next. You had Triple H breaking into Orton's house, Orton kissing Stephanie while Triple H was handcuffed, Orton kicking Vince in the skull, Shane McMahon coming back from retirement, and every week was must-see TV. Every week was exciting. Every week the story progressed and got more personal. In 2005, Raw had the whole Edge-Lita-Matt Hardy triangle that made you tune in every week. Matt Hardy and Lita were these young sweethearts who'd been together for years. Then Edge came along. Behind the scenes, Edge and Lita started having an affair. Matt had no idea. He trusted both of them completely. Edge was his friend. Lita was the love of his life. But word got out. People in the locker room started talking. Matt eventually found out his girlfriend was sleeping with one of his closest friends. Matt was devastated. His career was over. His relationship was over. And it was all because Edge stabbed him in the back. But Matt wasn't going down quietly. He started posting about the affair on the internet. He told the whole story. He exposed what really happened. He called out Edge and Lita publicly. The fans went nuts. They started chanting for Matt at every show. They booed Edge and Lita out of the building. The story got mainstream attention and everyone involved in the story got elevated to the next level. WWE couldn't ignore it anymore. They brought Matt back as a man seeking revenge. Matt showed up unannounced and attacked Edge during a live Raw. Security couldn't stop him. He was a man possessed. What followed was months of pure hatred. Every match felt like a real fight. Edge would mock Matt about stealing his girlfriend. Matt would try to end Edge's career. They had brawls, steel cage matches, and they made it personal in ways that felt too real for comfort. The whole thing felt dangerous, like it could explode at any moment. Because deep down, everyone knew this wasn't just acting. Now, I'm not saying WWE wrestlers need to go around stealing girlfriends from other wrestlers, but in 2005, when the story was right, WWE knew how to pull from real emotions and make it feel authentic. Compare that to the Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, and Dominic Mysterio triangle. The story was there, all the elements were in place, but instead of turning into a brutal blood feud that launched both women into superstardom, it barely registered and fizzled out quickly. You didn't have Rhea invading Liv and Dom's house to confront them. You didn't have the raw emotion and genuine heat that defined the Edge and Matt Hardy storyline. One moment, you had Rhea trying to seek revenge on her ex-boyfriend. The next moment, she was pandering to the fans and posting bikini pics on social media.
Man, you see mommy tell her I said hi.
The blind rage, the raw intensity of the Edge-Matt story was missing. Another major issue that has been under scrutiny recently has been the rise of Jey Uso into the main event.
Yeet!
Jey, a tag team specialist, broke away from the Bloodline as a solo act.
And I'm out too.
He won the Royal Rumble and got pushed into the main event scene before he seemed ready. The whole thing felt rushed and the push felt inorganic. Not only did Jey suffer, it also hurt Gunther's reign. They made Gunther tap out to Jey at WrestleMania, in a moment that had everyone scratching their heads. And then, they made Jey drop the title a few weeks later anyway, which made the whole WrestleMania win feel pointless. Compare that to the rise of John Cena into the main event scene in 2005. Cena had freshly won the WWE title at WrestleMania 21 and started his run in the main event. He got drafted to Raw, and just like Jey, he was faced with skeptical fans. Half the arena would cheer for him, while the other half booed him out of the building. But back in 2005, WWE didn't buckle. They didn't flinch. They turned that resistance into a character arc that would help Cena carry the company for a decade. First, Cena had to prove himself against corporate stooges like Jericho and Christian. Then he had to step up against legends like Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels to show that he belonged in their league. It gave Cena a wide range of opponents to work with and also established his credibility step by step. The reason all of this was possible was due to the roster depth and the variety in 2005. You had established legends like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, and Chris Jericho. But you also had young and hungry stars like Randy Orton, Batista, Shelton Benjamin, and Edge that could work with anyone. This is why you could have something like Hogan versus Shawn Michaels and Edge versus Matt Hardy on the same show. The variety and blend of talent gave every episode a unique feel. Today, everyone on the roster has the same motive, the same generic goal, and you can barely tell them apart. Everyone wants to prove why they are the better wrestler. The personal stakes are gone, the storylines lack depth, and the commentary has nothing to be excited about. Speaking of commentary, the duo of Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler on commentary amplified everything.
Damn Triple H! Damn his soul!
You had JR screaming his lungs out on every big moment, whether it was Triple H attacking someone with a sledgehammer, Edge cashing in, or Matt Hardy seeking revenge. Then you had Jerry Lawler with his witty one-liners and perfect timing. It felt like listening to two fans who were equally excited as you and had a genuine passion for what they were watching. The commentary on Raw today feels too bland and polished, and a big reason has to do with the 3-hour format. Back in 2005, this is how a typical Raw episode worked. You would have an explosive opening segment where the champion would come out and address the crowd. The challenger would then come out, a brawl would break out, leading to commercials. After this, you would typically have a mid-card feud for the Intercontinental title, a Divas segment, followed by a personal storyline between Edge and Matt, or Kane setting someone on fire. And finally, the show would end with a main event match that would usually see the champion or challenger in action with meaningful progression toward the next pay-per-view. The 2-hour show went by like a breeze and left you wanting more. Compare that to the 3-hour format, where everything feels like it's dragging. Segments feel stretched out just to fill the time slot. Mid-card feuds get forgotten. The main event loses steam and makes people tune out before the show ends. It feels like a weekly formality instead of must-see TV that drives the story forward week by week and leads to a pay-per-view. And a lot of it has to do with the audience WWE is appealing to. Back in 2005, WWE's audience mostly consisted of young men and guys in their 20s and 30s who wanted to see violent, shocking TV with controversy, superhuman moments, and stories that let them immerse themselves in the wild, wacky world of wrestling. It was an escape from daily life. It was soap opera for men. In 2025, Raw is still soap opera. But now, it's a soap opera for a small part of the population that's concerned about being politically correct and turning wrestling into a vehicle to drive their political goals instead of entertainment. But hey, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.